Am I an expat or am I an immigrant? This is the question that we are diving a bit deeper into today, because it is probably one of the words that I encounter that divides people the most. Because even in comments on previous videos on this channel, people will be like, why do you call yourself an expat? You're an immigrant. And I'll be sitting here going, well, actually, I'm both. It's really interesting how we hold onto so many connotations connected to these two terms. Now, I've already recorded a podcast episode all about this topic. I'll link it up here. But in today's video version, I just want to dive a bit deeper into this because it is still something that divides so many people. Yet, I don't really think that the distinction is easy to really explain. So let's dive a bit deeper into the dictionary definition, shall we? Because according to the Cambridge English Dictionary, the definition of an expat or expatriate is someone who does not live in their own country. So this is what the Cambridge English Dictionary defines an expat as: somebody who doesn't live where they were born. Now, if we look at the Cambridge English Dictionary definition of immigrant, an immigrant, on the other hand, is a person who has come to a different country in order to live there permanently. So you see, this is why, for me personally, I feel that I fit into both camps. I am an expat because I do not live in the United Kingdom where I was born, but then I'm also an immigrant because really now I have permanent residence status here in Italy. So I permanently live in a different country. And so it's very interesting how society in general wants to compartmentalize people and put them into specific boxes. It's also interesting how we tend to associate immigrant with a more negative meaning. Whenever we hear about people who go to other countries to escape life in their country, maybe because there is war or famine or some kind of difficulty, or maybe it's because they want to seek better opportunities in other countries, we automatically refer to those people as immigrant. It's almost like the default position. Okay, you're an immigrant. And if they enter a country without appropriate documents and they do so without following the proper process, they are immediately an illegal immigrant. But I've never heard the term illegal expat, although I'm sure there are plenty of people that live in other countries who perhaps don't necessarily meet all the requirements to be able to do so. It is interesting. Expat is a word which is heavily loaded and linked to wealth, linked to choice, linked to people coming from other countries to have a different experience and way of life, the freedom that is associated with that, and of course the financial means and ability to do so. Immigrant, on the other hand, is loaded with really negative and heavy connotations: struggle, poverty, inability to kind of fit into a culture or society. And also people have quite negative views about illegal immigrants in that they put strain on a country's population. And so tied into that is a lot of negativity towards their presence. It's super interesting. And, I've never really kind of thought about it too much until I started this channel, because when I started this channel, I began this channel talking about expat life in South Italy. And now, at this point on, 3 years later, I have returned to the very roots of why I started this channel. And I have, declared this channel is about real expat life in South Italy. I'm not talking very much anymore about anything else because I realized my audience is predominantly made up of people who want to come and live here. So it's interesting because I chose expat as a term without even really thinking about it, because it was all I saw in the media. When I was reading news reports back in the UK of people who chose to live in other countries post-retirement, I would always see the term expat. There are many expats who live in Spain. There are many expats that decide to go to Greece, for example. I would never hear the term immigrant. When I was researching kind of online communities and spaces for people to connect and get to know each other when you start living in another country, I would always see the term expat groups. There are even companies, entire organizations that use this term. I would never see the term immigrant. And I do think as well that the media and society plays a lot into the way that we have made the distinction between these two terms, because the dictionary definition doesn't actually make this distinction. Both of them on paper are the same. It is just perhaps the only difference is that immigrant means on a more permanent basis, whereas with expat, it's not actually stated. But you see, the media automatically lean toward immigrant when we are talking about people who perhaps decide to go somewhere with fewer choices. They are pushed into making that decision. Maybe they are not going to be able to provide the necessary documents to make their stay legal. So the media leans more towards describing those kinds of people as immigrants, whereas expats are described as people, who perhaps are slightly older maybe and decide to spend the latter years of their life living in another country, or even if they're younger, they've decided to live this kind of lifestyle where, they spend time in different parts of the world. I really don't think I will ever be able to arrive at a concrete reason as to why we have this distinction in life. And I think there is so much that we forget when we decide to put people into boxes. When I say that I am both, I am very much both, because trust me, when I go to the immigration office, that's right, it's not called an expat office here, it is actually called an immigration office. When I go to the immigration office and I have to follow the procedures for, to secure my stay here, now we are out of the EU, I'm very much an immigrant, and I'm reminded very much that I'm not a part of Italy. It is very clear to me. Yet, when I decide that I want to talk with other people who have moved here, or I want to create social connections, I'm reminded that I'm an expat, which seems to bring this kind of rosy, optimistic hue to the experience, because all I see everywhere are expat communities. I think we have to remember, people can be both. Life can be a blend. Life is not black and white. And I think when we view life in this way, we miss out on so much in the middle, because there is a grey area in between. People can be a bit of both. You can be an expat and an immigrant. Like, you don't have to choose one or the other to kind of define yourself as. And I think this is really, really important to remember. When it comes to expat or immigrant, I'm definitely somewhere in the middle. Definitely. I don't view myself more one than the other. And I also recognize that there is a lot of privilege that is associated with the word expat that isn't necessarily the case with immigrant, even though there are people who are immigrants and call themselves such. They go to countries and they make huge successes of themselves. They create businesses. They absolutely turn their life around compared to what they had in their own country. And so this is why I say it's complicated to put people into boxes and compartmentalize people's lives. We are all super complicated. And so we need to allow ourselves room to be a bit of everything, to be a blend, and not to be so rigid with our definitions of people. I've never heard the term illegal expat, but I hear the term illegal immigrant. And I promise you, the notion of illegal immigrant brings up a lot more hatred and prejudice in people than illegal expat does. And this is something that we have to navigate in life. And it's something that you too will navigate once you start living in another country. But I say, feel free to describe yourself as you want. Like, a label is just this. It doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to describe every single aspect of your life or experience. But it doesn't have to be the true definition of you. I will see you in the next video.